speaking of a second album, Porter Robinson from the Clouds.
From the clouds, literally from the clouds.
You know what's really funny about Porter Robinson?
What's
I
funny about Porter Robinson?
what's funny is my experience listening to him. Right. I think I listened to some of the tracks off Worlds, his 2014 debut, but I just like did not like internalize them at all because I always remember him as his like 2010s like sounding like Tiesto, basically every like
Kygo.
major bass heavy. No, I mean he was heavier than Kygo back then. um yeah,
What? Um,
I mean he
Bass
just
Nectar, pre-controversy.
kind of I don't know, I guess I'm thinking more along the lines of like
You mean like
Avicii
more?
sounding. Yeah, like
Okay,
Porter Robinson when he first came out where it was just like
Martin
these really heavy
Garrix.
bass. Yeah, basically like
Okay,
just like heavier songs. So like I did not internalizing Worlds and listening to this Nurture, his newest album coming out 7 years after his debut. I just was like, this is a total 180 from this guy. But obviously, there's more of a transition going back. I gave Worlds a spin, like at least a couple of the tracks off it, and
hmm
it's a pretty natural progression where he's at with this. Um, and he seems just like a very thoughtful artist at this point, and that in reading about his struggle over the last 7 years to make music that felt meaningful, that I think this makes a lot of sense what I'm saying, because he kind of took the music he was making back in the early 2010s that gained him a lot of fame and notoriety within the EDM world, and he pretty much like rejected it and said like, this is too
yeah.
formulaic, this is not fun, and it's not creative to me. And he's gone in a totally different direction, and Nurture is certainly a different direction. Did you like it, Dave?
I did like it. I definitely liked it a lot more than the World stuff. I went back and listened to some of those big hits like Goodbye to a World and Sad Machine, and like, yeah, it just sounded like generic 2010s EDM to me.
Hmm.
Makes sense. I didn't really recall it. And you flash forward the Nurture, Porter taking a long layoff, blowing up at a very young age, so taking a lot of time to grow, I guess. And getting to this, and it's like he's playing piano. He was arranging this whole thing. He's singing on. Those are all his vocals. He would pitch up his vocals to make him sound like feminine if he needed to, but like I was impressed with the product because I was like, this is not what I expect from someone who I just kind of had previously looked off as just another one of the DJs that all sound the same to me.
Yeah.
And it's actually really funny to see like he actually made a second album, because a lot of those DJs that you think of like that, a lot of times they don't even make albums. Like I was actually looking like Martin Garrix. He's been the DJ Mag, top 5 ever since he debuted, like the last like 7 years. He's been in that top 5, number 1 many times. He doesn't have a debut album, and like criticisms that list
Doesn't have
aside,
to.
like it's kind of the EDM world is interesting in that regard, right? So you don't need to actually make lots of like studio records, because you're going to play clubs and you're just going to remix and do live sets and play other people's shit.
Yeah.
So it was actually kind of cool to like read the press from Porter about his like long process making this. And this album was supposed to come out in September, delayed. He had his live show. What was it? A big Midnight Sky last year that I think he just recently did this past weekend as well. And definitely seems to have like a section of fandom that's crossed over with him into this new realm. And I mean, again, not like a huge EDM person in terms of like keeping up with it, but some like the early singles, like Look Up at the Sky, like that doesn't sound like 2010s EDM to me. That sounds like Owl City, if anything. It's like definitely
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. No, Owl City, Passion Pit.
Yeah,
It
that's a good one.
feels even like some early MGMT a little bit, I think, is a good comparison. But yeah, just to see where he came from. One of the songs I was thinking of, his first like big hit in 2010 with "Say My Name." That is so 2010 like EDM. It's
Loop.
exactly, and just like the drop, the bass, it's all very like of that time. And yeah, listening to this is a very like sweet but like melancholy at times
Yeah.
album, and
Hmm.
really like kind of puts you through it. It still has some of the like Porter, I think, staples of it being like chopped and kind of like disjointed at parts, but like intentionally to like kind of perk you up or throw you off like the natural like rhythm of the song to like disorient you. But I think there's a lot of really like interesting moments in here, and probably the track that stands out most to me is the longest one on here, Wind Tempos. I think that's
Mm.
just like a really beautiful song. It just like really takes me, into this like weird place in my head, right, where I'm just like, how long is this song? At one moment, it
Mm.
feels like it's going on forever, and another feels like it's like over very quickly, and the lyrics don't really make sense, but it's still very like interesting. I don't know. I really dug that one.
That's so funny. On my notes, I wrote wind tempo's meh.
Hey, different strokes for different folks. We already established we're not the same here today. What were the tracks that stood out to you?
Yeah, I think it's really because I was really high on Look at the Sky. Like, and because that's the second song on the album I
Oh,
hadn't heard
gotcha.
as a single, it just kind of like took me by surprise. And Wind
Mhm.
Tempos, I think, is just a little softer, a little
Yep.
quieter,
Yep.
relatively speaking. So,
Fair.
uh, also, I should correct myself. His live event's called Secret Sky, not Midnight Sky.
Hmm.
Midnight Sky is the Netflix movie with George Clooney.
Not
um,
nominated for the Oscar.
no, I liked his production on Dull Scythe. He's really like jamming out on the beat pad. Kind of reminded me of
Mhm.
Kanye when he would play Runaway live, where he would like bum 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 bum,
Mm.
before he would actually do the iconic keys.
Oh man, bringing me back here at these moments. Um, yeah, I think there's a couple of really like interesting moments on here. Musician is pretty
Mhm. Another
autobiographical,
single.
but I think a standout. This one is very passion pity to me. Like like the quick synths, the quick drum kit, um, but very just like upbeat, like you're in like a video game almost at times.
Dude, for the first track, Lifelike, I wrote reminds me of Zelda.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's a good one. Yeah. I was thinking like this kind of feels like adult like Roblox music almost. To
It's
speak. I don't know
funny.
if you've ever played that like those
Yeah, I
games,
know this.
but
Yeah.
just like it feels like you're in that kind of world, but it's also like real nice. And like the first track, Life, like such a nice like string section to begin it. Really like unexpected way to start the album, but builds really nicely off that. Um, I don't know, any other moments or songs that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, look out the sky, just like that like pulsing bass, but it's like really like horn heavy.
Hmm.
It's like it just feels different than what I expect from someone as mainstream as he is. Should note that song "Look at the Sky" got all the way up to 43 on the Billboard Hot 100 back in February. It's been pushed to the radio, so I wonder if they'll get a boost here. But either way, that's no small feat, I think, to like chart when you're not like DJ Snake or something. So
Yeah.
especially because again, like, Porter Robinson, not exactly been around in a mainstream way. Like obviously his hardcore fans were really into Secret Sky last year, but it seems like he kind of just went away for the
Yeah.
most part in the lead up to this album recording.
Yeah, it's interesting because what Shelter with Maddie on, probably his biggest like commercial success came out 2 years after Worlds, and haven't really seen him do anything like super like commercial since then. I mean, Maddie on, I guess, is not super well known, but I feel like well enough in the EDM circle where
Yeah.
it's two big names. Um, but yeah, I think this is just kind of looking at some of the streaming numbers coming along with some of these singles to start. It seems like he's doing pretty well here, and I mean, you spoke to this point already, but uh, I think we really give a lot of credit to EDM artists that are trying to like do something or say something that's beyond the conventions, because it feels pretty, I won't want to say easy, but there definitely is a formula, and he speaks to this. And this is like a real album. Like he's talking
Yeah.
about shit. He's really like going into his experience with depression and anxiety over the last 7 years. So
And he did everything himself.
amazing. Yeah. So definitely give it a listen. Nurture. We co-sign it. I'm sure Porter Robson's going to be very excited to hear positive review from us.